will you remember Sue Gray's tenure?
Well, Sue Gray is an exceptional public servant, and she worked really hard for us in opposition in helping prepare our manifesto, and particularly the work with the English regions and the mayors. And that's why we're really delighted that she's taken up the role of the Chair of Council of Regions and Nations, and will continue that important work. I look forward to continuing to work with her.
Yeah. Should she have been sacked?
Well, she offered her resignation, in her own words, because of the intense speculation about her role, and because she felt that it was right that the operation.
What do you think? I mean, she's a strong woman. You're a strong woman. Was it right? I'm a strong woman. Was it right for her to step aside?
I understand why she did. I'm sorry to see her go as Chief of Staff, but I'm delighted that she's carrying on in that role. I'm really grateful for the work that she did, both in opposition and in our first 100 days. But as I say, I'm really pleased that I will continue to work with her, and the Prime Minister will, as the Chair of the Council of Regions and Nations.
Out of control special advisors ousting a Chief of Staff. Under what circumstances is that acceptable?
Well, I don't recognise that briefing at all, and it's sort of very disappointing to see. To see these claims made in the papers. I would urge.
So you think it was her choice? You think?
Well, it was her resignation. Absolutely.
Yeah, it was her decision eventually, but she had no choice.
I understand. I mean,
she was sacked.
As far as I am aware and concerned, she offered her resignation.
So you would be disappointed if she was sacked?
I would just urge all colleagues to focus on the delivery of government. We've already achieved so much in less than 100 days of government. We've progressed legislation through the House of Commons on bringing our railways back into public ownership.
And I want to talk to you about the railways momentarily and the buses as well.
Great.
But do you think she should get a seat in the House of Lords?
Oh, well, that decision is absolutely not up to me at all. That's entirely for a decision for her and for the House of Lords Commission and for the Prime Minister. That's way above my pay grade. I think it's fitting the role that she's taken on. I think it's a really, really important role, and it shouldn't be undermined. There's an enormous bill going through that's about to go through Parliament on English devolution, and it will fundamentally reshape the way this country is run. It's one of the most centralised countries in the Western world at the moment, and so that is a very important role that she's taken up, and I'm really pleased it's her that's doing it.
Yeah. Rosie Duffield claims the Prime Minister has a problem working with women, and Number 10 has rejected that, obviously. How do you find working with the Prime Minister?
I don't think the Prime Minister has any problem working with women. If you look at the women he has around him, the first female Chancellor, Angela Rayner, the Cabinet is gender balanced. We have more female Labour MPs than there are Tory MPs in total. So I think any sense that the Labour Party has a problem with women or the Prime Minister is evidenced by the facts of us. But I'm sure you can imagine, Kay, there are plenty of strong women that speak our mind around the Cabinet table.
I'm glad to hear it. Zero-emission buses.
Well, this is an enormous vote of confidence in the UK and in the government's bus revolution today. £500 million by go-ahead for buses that will be made in Wrightbus in Northern Ireland, in Ballymena, and 1,200 electric buses across the country, which will help clean up our air and provide a better experience for passengers. So I'm really delighted that they've made this investment, both in the country and in the government's plans for taking back control of buses right across the country.
How are our trains doing? Every time, I've never had a good journey on Aviva West Coast.
Oh, on Avanti West Coast. Tell me about it. No, I very rarely have.
What are you going to do about it?
Well, they're in a remedial plan at the moment, and we are keeping a very close eye on them. Unfortunately, the way the contracts were drawn up means the standards are so low that, shockingly, they've not actually defaulted on them yet. But we are poring over the contract, and the second that they do default on that, we will bring it into public ownership because their performance has not been good enough. We certainly are.
OK. New claims suggesting that Lord Alli has been involved in major decisions, including drawing up a timetable for the first 100 days, you've just been talking about it, in office, and advising on appointments as such. Is that appropriate?
Well, I don't recognise those claims. I've not directly worked with Lord Alli, but he's been around. He's a Labour peer in his own right. He is a Labour politician. He's not just a donor, but he is a Labour peer who has donated to the Labour Party over many years. But I can't personally tell you exactly what decisions he's been involved in.
No, but he had access to all areas. You're aware of that, aren't you, at number 10?
My understanding was he had a pass temporarily in order to help support events, but I couldn't tell you what exact decisions he's been involved in.
And decide what jobs people should be doing.
I really can't. I don't know about that.
OK, well, I'm sure it will come out in the fullness of time. A recent YouGov poll suggests that over half of people in this country think the government, the Labour government, is already sleazy. How are you going to reassure them?
Well, I think the most important
You know why,
thing,
obviously.
And what I would...
Do you buy your own clothes?
I certainly do. I buy most of off Vinted or eBay.
Very good. Other suppliers are available.
I mean, I understand people's concerns about the hospitality and gifts, but what I would say is that these have all been declared in the proper, transparent way, and that's why we're having this discussion in the first place. You know, with the previous government, the reason that these issues became front-page news is because we didn't know about the donations. We didn't know who was paying for the former Prime Minister Boris Johnson's holidays.
That doesn't make it worse or better.
I think it does when they're deliberately hiding them from the public. These were all declared in the proper way on the Register of Interest.
Not all of them.
But
Not all
the
of
Prime
them.
Minister has reflected on the mood in the country, and is now going through the process of drawing up a new set of rules on hospitality that will be published alongside the Ministerial
Did he really
Code.
need to go and see Taylor Swift twice?
Well, he's clearly a massive
super fan?
Swiftie. He must be. I didn't know this about him, but he must be a super Swiftie.
Yeah, but you get the point. In all seriousness,
I do, and I'm not. You know, I understand people's concerns in the country, and that's why a Labour government will always hold itself to higher standards, and will always be held to higher standards by the public and by the media, and that's why we have reflected on that and are drawing up a new code to make sure that we draw a line under this and move forward and make sure that the public do trust us and all politicians on this issue. But we'll also be closing a loophole that has meant that previous Conservative ministers did not have to declare these kind of gifts and hospitality. So we'll be closing that loophole so everyone is subject to the same rules.
And let's just finish more or less where we started. Do you think that Sue Gray has been treated fairly?
I think Sue has served remarkably. She's a good friend, and I don't want to speak. I don't want to speak for her. She's a member of staff and can't answer for herself.
You're a Secretary of State. You're representing the government today. You're a strong, sassy woman. So is she. Has she been treated fairly?
She is a very, very strong woman, and she will have made her case forcefully, but she offered her resignation in the right way, and she's taking on a really important role, and I'm really pleased that she is.
And has she been treated fairly?
I've not been privy to those internal conversations. She can't answer. She can't answer
said she was a good friend of yours.
It's absolutely right that the Prime Minister looks at the way that Downing Street is being run and makes sure that it is absolutely focused on the delivery of government. And it's right that he's put her in this very important role for English devolution and for working with the nations.
OK, let's see how she gets on with Andy Burnham and the like.
Absolutely.
OK, it's good to see you.